What is up, my dudes? I'm gonna be finding out, finally, which It movie slash series is best. That's right. So basically, what this is gonna be is just, I'm basically just gonna be making a pros and cons list about, It, the 1990s miniseries, and It chapters 1 and 2, the supercut. So yeah, I'm going to be calling it the miniseries and the supercut. Those are the words I'm going to be using. I currently am in my parents' basement, which is why this filming location looks kind of weird. I'm moving out of my house, so I'm staying in my parents' house because reasons. So today I have my handy dandy notebook and I wrote all of this at work and it's very disorganized. So we're just gonna get right into it. First off, we are going to be talking about the miniseries.
Yeah, the Losers Club.
You want in?
Yeah, I do.
Hey, we're 7 now. Lucky 7.
This show came out in the 90s. Obviously, it was in 2 parts. So there was one that was much more centered on the kids but still had the adults in it, and then there was another one that was more centered on the adults but still had the kids in it. The miniseries starred Harry Anderson, Dennis Christopher, Richard Mazur, Annette O'Toole, Tim Reed, John Ritter, Richard Thomas, Tim Curry, Jonathan Brandis, Brandon Crane, Adam Faisal, Seth Green, Ben Heller, Emily Perkins, Marlon Taylor, Olivia Hussey, Sheila Moore, Jared Blankard, Michael Ryan, Frank C. Turner, Caitlin Hicks, Tony Dakota, and I think that's the only important people. Oh, and Michael Cole. That's what the miniseries starred. And it was basically just the first adaptation of the book It, and it was actually really good. The first time I saw it, I was a child and I didn't think it was great. But now that I've read the book and now that I've seen the new movie, I can attest that this movie is actually really good. It is cheesy and weird, but it's a really good adaptation, and we're basically just gonna tackle the pros and the cons of the miniseries. Let's go. All right, so let's start with the pros because we always want to start with the good stuff. It was much more accurate to the book. It was, it felt like it was done to, I'm trying to think of the right word. It felt like it was done to honor the coke-fueled draft of It that Stephen King put out, and I think that it did that very, very well. So it brought in a lot of stuff that the new movie really didn't. Mike was a historian instead of Ben, which is what happened in the first book. So Mike actually kind of had a point to be with the losers, which is very, very important because the whole point is that all of the losers were meant to be together. And in the new one, it really doesn't seem like Mike had a point until the last one. But in the miniseries, they stayed true to that fact that he was the historian, which is why he is with the losers. He was a loser himself, but he also had a lot of reasons to kind of be there. The werewolf was Richie's fear, which is very interesting to me, because in the new one, like, they obviously kind of, they show that his fear is clowns, but when he's confronted with clowns, he's not actually that afraid. He's in an entire room with clowns, and yet there's really no fear there. His only fear is, like, the initial, like, shock of, oh no, all of these clowns are here now, all of a sudden. But it doesn't really go beyond that point. As for, you know, in the miniseries and in the book, Richie is afraid of werewolves, and that can also be interpreted as him having internalized homophobia. Hashtag Remus Lupin is a metaphor for AIDS. Controversy. Just kidding. Everybody knows that. Anyway, that's a main thing that I like to think about, is just the fact that the werewolf is internalized homophobia. That's obviously. And then the other point that I kind of want to talk about with, you know, the pros, with it being more accurate to the book, Ben and Beverly were very obviously meant to be together. In the new adaptation of it, it's flaky at best. There are some scenes where it's kind of more obvious that they should be together, but there are other scenes where it seems like, you know, Ben is the only one that thinks that likes Beverly, that it's not, you know, a mutual attraction, it's just Ben. Whereas in the miniseries, yes, Beverly still has her thing with Bill, they still kiss, all of that stuff, but once they get back together, it shows that she maybe does have an attraction to Ben, and they actually, you know, they do end up kissing, and, you know, and that's like before the final scene of the movie. They kiss when Mike is in the hospital, and I think that is much more well done. Much more done well. Much done well more. Okay, so pros continued. Eddie Kaspbrak is less Fanon-centric. Edward Kaspbrak can be feral. This is true. He literally shoots Pennywise with an inhaler, then stomps on his eye. It's in the book. In the movie, he shoots him with the inhaler and he says, "This is battery acid. I believe in the Tooth Fairy. I believe in the Easter Bunny, but I don't believe in you." Like, obviously, he can be feral, but he's still just a soft little boy. I love soft Eddie so much. I love him so much. He's soft and he's vulnerable and he's scared and it's so obvious. And I just think that the 90s one does that so well. It's so well done. Oh my goodness. Mwah, chef's kiss, because it's fantastic. I also think that the friendship between the losers was much more ride or die than, like, you know, the new one or anything like that. In the miniseries, there are no arguments about whether or not they should help Bill. They just help Bill because he's their friend and they would do anything for each other. That's like the whole point of the Losers Club, is that they're all losers. They got to stick together. That's a thing. They say that constantly. And they do stick together. There's never a moment where they break apart. And I think that that's fantastic. There's also just that one scene, I think about it constantly, after Richie has poured his drink on Henry Bowers. They go into the Barrens and they're just like all hanging out. They're all having a good time. And Richie says, "Are we men or are we mice?" And they're like, "We're mice." And it's beautiful. Like, it just showcases like how they're meant to be together. And I love it. I genuinely love it so much. Okay, moving on. All of the trauma was actually kind of dealt with. Beverly talked about her trauma. She told Ben about her husband. She told him what she had been through, and it was shown, and it was beautiful. It was so good. And it makes me cry because she is opening up to these people that she loves and that she just remembered, but she remembers how much she loves them and how much they'll help her. So she opens up to them and tells them about all of her trauma. And then we talk about Eddie Kaspbrak, although he never really had an open conversation with the losers about the fact that he was traumatized and he had all of this, all of these issues with his medication and all of that stuff. He at least gets to go talk to Mr. Keene again. Mr. Keene, who was the only adult who ever tried to convince him that his medication was just gazebos, you know, like it. So he gets to go talk to Mr. Keene again, and yeah, Mr. Keene is crazy and doesn't really remember Eddie. At least he gets to thank him for trying to tell him the truth, because he knows that that's the truth now. But he just can't stop because he's in the habit. And I think that that's fantastic. I would also like to talk about the library scene where Stan's head roasts the losers so bad. I love it so much. That is one of my favorite scenes. It's fantastic. And I really, really like it. I also, I like how the entire movie kind of just felt like a fun little romp in the woods. Like, we'll talk about that a little bit more later, but it does just kind of feel like, you know, we're just hanging out with our friends, and yeah, we're fighting this bad guy, and yeah, there's a lot of bad stuff that happens, but like, it's fine because we're friends and it's summer and we're having a good time. Even when they're adults, it still feels like that because they talk and they joke around all the time. And that's just sprinkled in between all of the, you know, Pennywise moments. And I think that that is great. Last pro I want to talk about with the miniseries, and then we'll move on to the cons, Tim Curry. Now the cons of the miniseries. It's just so cheesy, and I know, like, I talked about that like it was a good thing before. It is, it's a good thing, it's funny, but a lot of people, I think that this is probably just like a sign of the times where I'm 20, and it's 2020. I was born in 99, so I was born 9 years after. Horror movies have gotten so much better, like, their graphics have been a lot better. So I think it's probably just a sign of the times. There are so many people that say, like, oh, I was so scared when I watched the miniseries, and I'm like, how? It's dumb. Which it's not, obviously, but that was always my thought. So I think that is, it's a con, but it's also a pro. Like, it's kind of in between. It's cheesy, and that's fun, but it's cheesy, and I'm not really scared, and there are also moments where I just roll my eyes because, are you kidding me? Why? There's also nothing super high stakes about anything that they go through, which is that's part of the con with it feeling like a romp in the woods. There's really nothing super high stakes, even when Staniel commits bathwater and like when Eddie eventually dies. I still cry, but it doesn't feel like there's a real threat, which is unfortunate. We also barely saw Eddie's mom, so that sort of trauma isn't really dealt with. He talks about the fact that he's never really loved anyone other than the losers, which I think is great. You know, we don't deal with it, but like, obviously he's demisexual. It's right there, so maybe, like, you know, check that out. But it's not ever addressed, the fact that his mom is the one who is kind of holding him back from finding that same connection with other people that he had with the losers, because he's still living with his mom. And that's not really addressed or explored at all, and I think that that's kind of disappointing. So his sort of trauma was much more internal, so we weren't, as an audience, weren't allowed to see it. John Boy Walton was extremely bad at stuttering. Every time he stutters, it makes me laugh, which is that's not what I should be feeling. Like, I shouldn't be feeling humor at the fact that this poor boy can't even get through a sentence, but he stutters so poorly, it's hilarious. And speaking about, you know, the Denboroughs, Audra, well, she's not a good actress. I apologize, but she's just not good. I'm glad we got to see a lot more of her in this one, which I just thought that was fun, but I think that if they were going to show us a lot more, maybe they should have gotten a better actress. I don't know, just an idea. The scene where they get caught in the deadlights, it's so poorly done. It's like, if you haven't seen it, which I don't know how you haven't if you're watching this if you're watching this video, but in the movie, in the miniseries, Bill goes up and he's like, oh, I'm gonna fight you, and then just stops because he sees the deadlights, and he's like, and then Ben is like, oh no, puts his hand on Bill's shoulder, pauses because he sees the deadlights, he can't do anything. Richie runs up, he's like, oh, I have to help you. And that's it. They're just standing there staring. It's so dumb. It makes me laugh every single time, and that's not, like, that scene has emotional impact, but it doesn't. It's ridiculous. It's also way too easy to kill Pennywise. You just punch him a couple times and he's gone. And that is also an issue that I have with the new one, the supercut. It's so easy to kill him. He's just dead. You could have just punched him in the face and he'd be gone. So stupid. And then I obviously do have to talk about Richie and Eddie's relationship, which was not explored at all in the miniseries, and that is one of my favorite things in the entire world. I love Reddy. I ship it. I've shipped it hard for many years. But it was not addressed in any way, shape, or form in the miniseries, and obviously that is also another sign of the times. It was the 90s, so we didn't really talk a whole lot about that, and that's fine. I think that the best part about it is the fact that Dennis Christopher and Harry Anderson have come out since and said, you know, that they, or at least Dennis Christopher have said that they were playing it up. They were playing it to show that they were in a relationship. They always thought that they, or not in a relationship, but like that they had feelings for each other that they were different from the feelings that they had for the rest of the losers. And I think that that's really nice. And then the last con I have to talk about, and I'm gonna put my computer away for this one, Bill's ponytail.
King.
Ew! The scariest part of the movie.
Scariest part. That was the scariest cut. That was a legit jump scare. Please face the camera at all times. Please! No. Even she screams.
That's it. That's the con. What is that? It's awful. I hate it. Why did you do it? It's gross. Make him bald, please. Okay, now to move on to the supercut. We're going to talk about the pros first. Now I have my notebook because my computer, I didn't want to make a whole PowerPoint about this. So here we go. Pros, and I'm just gonna probably read them and then I will talk about them a little bit more. Pros, Richie is gay and an icon. You see this? He's the reason I got Hawaiian shirts and now I just can't stop wearing them. I'm not even cosplaying today. I'm just wearing this shirt. I like, too, that it was set in the 80s and then in the 2000s. I think that that is really good simply because when the first movie came out, 80s nostalgia was at its peak. Stranger Things had just come out and now we were coming out with It, which was supposed to be set in the 80s. Obviously in the book it's set in the 50s, but I think that it was done well, or it was a good choice just because it got more people interested in that field because Finn Wolfhard was in it and Finn Wolfhard just has to do 80s movies now. It's in his contract with every single thing that he does. The casting. The kids were talented and fantastic and they did such a good job, and then the adults were the exact same thing as the children. Like, they were so good, and the fact that they were able to choose such I don't know. It was basically as if they aged up all of the losers except for Finn Wolfhard. I honestly don't see Bill Hader, like Finn Wolfhard growing up to be Bill Hader, but Bill Hader was fantastic. So there's that. Casting was fantastic. Mwah, chef's kiss again. Bill Skarsgård as Pennywise was so fantastic. It's true. I'm astounded at the fact that he could be so good. I praise the 90s version of it because they used mostly practical effects. I don't really think, like, I don't remember seeing a whole lot of CGI. Probably because they didn't have CGI. I don't know. I wasn't born. I have no idea if they had CGI. But they used mostly practical effects. The supercut didn't. They used a lot of CGI, but I still think that Bill Skarsgård was a fantastic Pennywise because he just really got into the headspace, but he's also just such a nice guy. Like, how can someone portray this homophobic evil man, child killer, but then also be such a sweetheart? I don't get it. I have no idea. If someone finds out, let me know. Isaiah Mustafa and Bill Hader carried part 2 on their backs. That's all I'm gonna say about that. They had fun little references to the turtle. Did anyone else notice that? I liked that. They had like, Georgie had a little Lego thing that was a turtle, and then there was turtle wax down in the basement. And little on the nose, but you know what? It was great. I liked it. I thought that was fun. The acting on both sides was amazing. Like, the kids were fantastic. The adults were fantastic. They were all just like so fantastic. They were perfect. Henry Bowers, terrifying. Like, why is he scarier than Pennywise? Because he's a person, and it's scary to think that humans can actually be that evil. Okay, I figured it out. But he's still really good. He's really scary, and I love him. Nicholas Hamilton is just fantastic. He's such a good actor. Andy Beans. That's it. That's all I gotta say. That one scene in Evil House where Pennywise crawls out of the fridge? Superb! Also, the dirty little secret scene gave me chills. I leaned over to the person that I had gone to it with, who's not my friend anymore, and was like, oh my goodness, I can't believe they did it. He's gay. And he was like, what are you talking about? But I knew. I knew. And that scene hurts me. I'm just gonna continue. It doesn't matter. Okay, anyway, the dirty little secret scene had me freaking out. It's the same feeling I had when Will and Mike are fighting and Mike says, it's not my fault you don't like girls. I was like, oh! So, why are you here now? I'm busy. I don't need you. But now you get to be in the video. This is my dog. It's not my dog. It's my brother's dog. But y'all get to see him now. Because I can't make one video in peace. Here's the scene where Sonia... Oh, hey, what about the fact that Sonia and Myra were played by the same person? That was pretty cool. That was really good. A little on the nose, but it was pretty chill. I was happy with it. Stan's note. Stan's note was great. Glad we finally found out why he did it. The rest of this video is gonna be me in a bad mood. R+E. Enough said. Oh, Bill got to grow up and realize that it wasn't his fault that his brother died. That was pretty chill. Glad we got to see him address his trauma. Literally just the scene where Bowers stabs Eddie in the face, and it made me think of that one Bill Hader interview where he's talking about when one of his friends fake stabbed one of his other friends, and the friend that got stabbed was like, why? Just reminded me of that. That was pretty funny. Ben's a sweetheart and I love him a lot, and I would just want him to be happy. Oh, Richie having to be physically forced out of Niebel House was nice. Not because of what happened, but because I think that it was a good detail, and also showcased Bill Hader. Just in general, Bill Hader did such a good job, and it made my heart break. Hochstetter as the chauffeur for Bowers was fantastic, and I'm so glad they put that in there. That was in the book. And when I mentioned that to my brother, he was like, why would that be in the book? And I'm like, I don't know. Because it's weird and it's so fun. I like it a lot. Okay, and I guess last pro that I wrote down here it's weird. Did you know that PJ Ranson and Andy Bean could strangle me, and with my last breath I would say thank you? Now on to the cons. Why show Tom if you aren't going to let Beverly process the trauma? Similarly, why show Myra if you aren't going to let Eddie process the trauma? There's no trauma being processed other than Bill, obviously, because Bill is the self-insert, isn't he? So that's the only thing that matters, is the fact that Bill is the self-insert. So he's the only character that should have any sort of trauma processing. Richie didn't get any of that. Poor kid dealt with internalized homophobia his entire life, and the one time that he's finally like, oh hey, maybe I can deal with this, the love of his life dies. And then Beverly and Ben are just making out, just right in front of him. I don't get it. Why is there no justice in the world? It's so long. The whole supercut, if he comes out with the supercut with like the extra scenes and everything like that, it's gonna be like 5 hours long. Do I need to watch a movie that long? No. Will I? Yes, multiple times a week. It's not gonna be healthy for me, so he just shouldn't do it. Oh, Bill and Beverly kiss and there's no consequences. Can we please, please, please stop normalizing cheating? I understand it would have happened anyway with like Beverly and Ben. That's fine, simply because Beverly is leaving her abusive husband. Bill has a wife who is not mean to him. Although in the last scene with Bill, we kind of see like he doesn't have a wedding ring on, so did he finally leave her? And possibly him and Mike are gonna be in love and happy together? Possibly, but there's no implication of the fact that his marriage was an unhappy one other than the fact that he says, oh, so you've been lying to me since we were married? Blah, blah, blah. And that's just Bill being Bill. I'm angry about this. Mike's character was crap. Not in the 2017 one other than the fact that like he couldn't have a plot or he couldn't be a character. Oh, I was supposed to be the historian? Well, guess what? Ben is, so I guess I don't matter anymore. But in chapter 2, what was that? Literally lying to his friends. For some reason I wrote lying to his friends, not in my chilies. So there's that. And taking drugs. I'm so glad that Andy Muschietti did not make him a drug addict like I thought that he would, but he still did do drugs and then drugged his friend. I hate it. He went completely insane and he was so out of character the entire movie. Like, Isaiah Mustafa did a great job with what he was given, but Mike's character was ruined in this movie. I don't know why they did this. Immediately, as soon as Mike tells them what's going on, they're all like, okay, see you later. That's not the Losers Club. Losers gotta stick together, you dumbos. I hate you. Oh yeah, I did say it was extremely out of character for everyone except for Richie, because even in the book and in the miniseries, he's the one who wants to leave. Everyone else is like, okay, we'll stay, we'll help you, we'll do that. But Richie's the one that's just like, no, I don't really want to die. So Richie was very much in character, but everyone else was extremely out of character. Like, Beverly saying that she wants to leave, but she also saw everyone die, so like, why does she want to leave? It doesn't make any sense at all. I have to flip the page now, but my fingers are dry because of rage. Anyway, Ben is not the historian. I did write this down apparently, but he's not. He's not. Mike is. Get out of here with your false facts. Oh, yes, I also wrote in the cons column, Richie having to be physically forced out of Neibolt. Why? Because it broke my little heart. And I can't handle that after already having my heart broken. I can't handle having it broken twice. Oh yeah, Eddie's last words. I am very much aware that that was supposed to be Eddie's way of saying that he loved Richie back. That I get it, because that's how Richie has always shown his love for Eddie, is by saying stuff like that. But I wanted to throw my drink at the screen whilst in the theater. Yes, fat shaming. I'm aware that, like, that was always the punchline, was, like, the fact that, like, Eddie's mom is fat. I get that. But also, just the blatant fat shaming of Ben immediately, when they meet up again at the Jade of the Orient, and, like, Richie, like, in order to always be the funny guy, ha 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 ha, goes, points at Ben, and he's like, I'm sorry. Can we not? It's awful. Him doing the Jabba the Hutt accent, okay, people have been yelling at Bill Hader for that, and I understand, because Andy Muschietti, like, he didn't ask him to do that. That's fine. I just think that it was not just Bill Hader's fault, because he knows how to be funny and, like, not offensive. He's genuinely, like, a nice person. But Andy could have easily cut that out of the movie. He could have cut out all of the fat shaming, and the fact that he just left it in is, it's just, horrible. It's horrible. And it makes me angry. Like most of the things in chapter 2. It makes me angry. And then the last thing I want to talk about is just the CGI. In chapter 2, it was awful. Absolutely awful. I'm annoyed at it. It was just not good. It wasn't good. That's all. That's all I gotta say. Okay, so those are the pros and cons of the miniseries and the supercut, and now I have to tell you which one is better. Is it the 90s version or is it the 2000s version? Who knows? I will tell you right now. Neither. They both suck. Why?
Where are the turtles? Come on, guys, get out of here.
Where are the turtles? Where are they?
The turtle, man. Nobody mentions the turtle. The ritual of Chud, supposed to be, it has the turtle in it. Just give me the turtle. Please, please. I just want the turtle. And then you'll have a good adaptation of it. So when they make the third one, give me the turtle, and I will forgive all of your sins. I'll do a video rewriting it, chapters 1 and 2. I will do it. I dare myself to do it, and I will do it. I have to do it, because the turtle. Anyway, that's the video. There's no point to it, and I think that that's what makes it fun. So if you guys like this video, please leave a like, comment, subscribe. You do you. I can't control your actions. Tell me your feelings on this subject. I don't have a definitive answer. I love both of them equally. So this whole video was pointless. But such is life. Hope you guys are staying safe, quarantined, self-isolated, practice social distancing, and I will see you in the next